We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. First item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Rednauer will lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome all. Thank you for being here. Do we have any additions or deletions to the agenda? Mr. Bowling? Any members of the commission? If not, first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of April 23rd, 2015. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
By Mr. Borgnano. Do we have a second?
Second.
By Mr. Rednauer. Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign? Hearing none, the motion carries. First item on the agenda, which is not on consent, is Advanced Auto Oslo Road Subdivision, request for preliminary plat approval for a commercial subdivision. DB Partners 1 LLC are the owners. Dennis Wood Engineering LLC is the agent. Project is located immediately west of the Oslo Plaza Shopping Center. Zoning classification is CG, general commercial. Land use designation is CI, commercial industrial. This is a quasi-judicial matter, so we'll start by asking if any member of the commission has had any ex parte communications, investigations, site inspections, anything else to learn anything further about the project, or whether anybody has any reason why they cannot consider this matter with a free and open mind. Any member of the commission? Okay, hearing none. At this point, Madam Clerk, I'd ask you to go ahead and swear in anybody who will testify as a witness in this matter.
If you're going to testify tonight, would you please stand, raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
And the hearing will be opened. We'll start with the county.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, I am Ryan Sweeney, Senior Planner with the Community Development Department. Tonight we have a preliminary plat application for the Advanced Auto Oslo Road subdivision. The subject site is located on an out parcel just west of the Oslo Plaza, or the Winn-Dixie Plaza, as you might know it as, at the northwest corner of Oslo Road and 27th Ave Southwest. Here is a little bit of an older aerial showing the existing conditions of the site. Oslo Road is now complete, so you can tell it's a little bit dated, but you do see that there is the existing north-south driveway here that is shared with the Winn-Dixie Plaza and the Elwell parcel to the north. The proposed preliminary plat is a division of a 2.09 acre parcel into roughly equal halves, a 1.12 acre parcel, which is lot 1, and a 0.97 acre parcel, which would be lot 2. Staff is currently processing a staff level site plan for an Advanced Auto retail store for lot 1. Here you see on the plat graphics several existing easements as well as several proposed easements. The existing north-south driveway connection to Oslo Road, which is again shared with Winn-Dixie Plaza, as well as the Elwell parcel to the north. There's also an existing east-west easement where a new driveway will be provided. It is located halfway on the subject parcels as well as half on the Elwell parcel. The driveway will come in, loop down through the Lot 1 site that's being site planned right now, and will ultimately exit in a one-way back through a proposed access easement that will be an exit-only right out back to the main north-south driveway connection. There are no new driveway connections on Oslo Road. There's also some existing drainage easements and some proposed utility easements on the plat. The dedication improvements, there are access and utility easements that are reciprocal for the created lots, and also as part of this plat application there are drainage access and utility easements that will be dedicated in favor of the Elwell parcel to the north, which will enhance or allow for the Elwell parcel to better connect to Oslo Road infrastructure or through the Winn-Dixie Plaza. There are existing easements as well. Those easements would be dedicated either prior to or via final plat. And with that, staff recommends that the Planning and Zoning Commission approve the preliminary plat for the Advanced Auto Oslo Road subdivision with the condition listed in the staff report, and that's related to the drainage, access, and utility easements for the Elwell parcel. Thank you.
Okay, does any member of the commission have any questions of the counties? I know the applicant's here. Does the applicant have any questions of the county?
I do not. If you have any questions, I'm here available to answer the questions.
Okay, and for the record, could you please state
For
your
the
name?
records, Dennis Wood, address 1925 Bartow Road, Lakeland, Florida, and I'm the engineer for Dennis Wood Engineering.
Okay. Do you have any presentation to make beyond what the county has made?
I do not.
Okay, does any commissioner have any question of the applicant's representative?
I've got a question for staff. In your analysis in Section 1 for the utilities and Section 2 for the traffic circulation, there's a lot of shared responsibilities between Lot 1 and 2. Is that unusual, and are there any potential problems associated with that?
Mr. Chair, Dr. Day, no, that's a pretty regular occurrence with these commercial type subdivisions. A lot of those easements are already put in place, and really these will just finish it out, but it's pretty commonplace.
The proposed access easement across Lot 2 doesn't abut up against Oslo Road. It sets back a little bit.
Yes, sir.
What's the reason for that, and what is being done with the property or the land just immediately south of that access easement?
Mr. Chair, that easement is in line with the drive aisle. There's a landscape buffer, as well as that site's not quite site planned yet, but there could potentially be parking spaces on that south side as well. But there is a landscape buffer between the southern property boundary and that drive aisle easement.
And Mr. Chairman, if I could just add, for the record, Stan Bowling, Community Development Director. In many cases along arterial roads like that, for major driveways like this that serve multiple properties, the first east-west access will form an intersection with that north-south driveway, so you don't want that right on the right-of-way. You actually, for stacking and so forth, you need a bit of separation, and that easement location accommodates that separation.
Okay, and I'm not sure I 100% follow those reasons, but I guess they do not apply, or do they apply with respect to Lot 1 and the development of Lot 1? Will there be, in effect, a similar setback like that?
Well, Lot 1 does not, won't directly access Oslo Road. It'll access through Lot 2, and they will have to hook into where the easement is shown there on Lot 2. But again, vehicles coming from Lot 1 across Lot 2, when they get to that north-south driveway, there will be a sufficient distance back from Oslo Road for stacking cars that are exiting the Oslo Road onto Oslo Road.
Between, I'll call it the setback on Lot 2 and the access easement on Lot 2, is that going to leave enough developable property on Lot 2? It's starting with 0.97 acres. I don't know what it's going to end up with after you get done with those two things.
Right. What you would have in that case, landscaping and probably a row of parking. So it wouldn't be it is useful area, and as Ryan said, there's a site plan in that review that we've done for the Advanced Auto site, and there should be sufficient room for development of Lot 2.
And am I correct in assuming that the owner of the Elwell parcel is someone different from the owner of Lots 1 and 2? And has that person expressed any objection to this proposed plan?
Mr. Chair, they've been copied on all of the correspondences. In fact, they're quite pleased because I think they're gaining from this application. So they haven't expressed for or against, but I would think they would be for.
Okay. Now, does any member of the commission have any other questions or comments they'd like to make? Anything further from the county or from the applicant?
Mr. Chairman, the only thing that I'd add is that the county owns a retention pond that it purchased from Mr. Elwell, and you can see part of that at the very top of the screen.
Okay, yes.
Right before you. It was very easy to negotiate an agreement with Mr. Elwell, and he was just kind of waiting for somebody to come in first. I think there was a credit union parcel that was supposedly looking at this. They have since stopped looking, I guess. But no, Mr. Elwell was very easy to deal with.
Okay, very good. Anything else then from anybody?
So will the entrance onto Oslo Road be a stop sign?
Mr. Chair, Dr. Day, it's the current entrance that's there now. It's an existing two-way drive with, yes, it's a full
And
access.
that's a stop sign?
Correct.
Right, yep.
Yes.
Anything further from anyone? Any member of the public? Okay, if not, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. The record does consist of the materials in your notebook. Do we have any motion from the commission?
Move to approve with staff's recommendations?
Okay, Dr. Day made the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Brognano made the second. Any further discussion? All in favor, please signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign? Hearing none, that motion carries. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is consultant presentation on MPO 2040 Long Range Transportation Plan, which is informational. Mr. Phil Mattson.
Good evening, members of the Planning and Zoning Commission. I'm Phil Mattson. I'm Indian River County Metropolitan Planning Organization Staff Director. I'm going to give you 2 sentences on what the MPO is and what we do. To begin with, it is a very prescriptive process set out by the Federal Highway Administration to establish a metropolitan planning organization in every urbanized area of 50,000 people or more. That includes us. And we have 2 primary responsibilities under the federal guidelines. The first is to come up with a long-range transportation plan that needs to be updated every 5 years. That plan applies to all modes of transportation, and that plan is a prerequisite if you want to get federal or state gas tax funding on a major transportation project or facility. And that's our second responsibility. Each year we submit to DOT at the MPO level a list of priorities that we would like DOT to participate in, better still construct for us, that are of major significance to us here in Indian River County. Now, who is the MPO? It's the 5 county commissioners. It's also city representation. The federal statutes indicate that it has to be a geographic proportional board. So every decennial census, we take a look at the membership, make sure the cities are adequately represented, and so forth. We actually have 12 members on our board. That having been said, I have a stakeholder survey that we've developed pretty much just for you. I really want to take this opportunity to show you this plan. The way we're headed now, we're at the needs assessment phase. And once we superimpose a cost constraint on this needs plan, we'll end up with what projects we'll actually be able to move forward with on a 25-year horizon. So I'll give you the survey and ask you to help me with it. And in the spirit of full disclosure, I wanted to take advantage of the television audience and those interested in planning, show them what we're up to, what we have going on. We're right now at the public involvement phase, and flash our website up there. So I thank you for your time, and we promise to be brief tonight.
Okay, thank you very much.
Let me introduce Greg Kyle from Kimley Horn and Associates. He's the consultant tasked with running our transportation models and coming up with our plan.
Good evening.
Welcome.
I'll provide a brief overview of the long-range transportation plan process. This is the plan that establishes the long-term vision for the transportation system within the county. As Phil mentioned, it's multimodal and addresses all modes of transportation, and we're looking at a 25-year horizon right now, out to the year 2040. The LRTP, or Long Range Transportation Plan development process, consists of several steps. We're fairly early in the process still. We have already developed our policy goals and objectives for the plan, and also taken a look and forecast the future growth in population and employment and where that growth is likely to occur within the county. And right now we're in the process of identifying the transportation needs based upon that growth, and then also identifying what are the different transportation alternative improvements that are available to address the future growth. The need for transportation improvements will be driven by growth in the county. What's shown in this slide is the population and employment projections between now and the year 2040. Note the population is projected to grow from about 140,000 today to slightly in excess of 200,000 by the year 2040, slightly under a 50% increase in population growth. Employment and jobs anticipated to grow from about 65,000 today to 90,000 in the future. That's about a 40% growth in jobs looking over our long-term horizon.
Can I ask you?
Sure.
On what basis did you reach those Did you use those growth factors?
Those factors came from the Bureau of Business and Economic Business Research at the University of Florida. They provide population and employment forecasts on a regular basis and continuously update those. And so those are the mid-range forecasts that have been developed for Indian River. They come up with a low, a medium, and a high-range forecast, and that's the medium-range forecast that's been developed.
Do you have any idea how those figures compare to the state at large? In other words, are we going to grow more or less, or the same as?
Yeah, actually, we just saw something recently. I was at a DOT meeting, and they flashed it out there. To my surprise, we were actually growing a little faster than South Florida at this point. I don't know why that is. I think part of it is the fact that you've got a lot of, no longer do you have the traditional families moving into South Florida as much. I think you have a lot of young singles and such, and I think a lot of the old houses that might have had 4 occupants probably have 3 or less now in some of the South Florida areas. This composition is changing a little bit. Not that we're getting any younger, but I think that might be part of the reason. It's also such a big base you're working on down there. You've got 6 million people in 3 counties, so it's pretty hard to achieve this level of growth. Just one last thing I'll say on population. This is the same population figure we use for the comprehensive plan, and it averages out about 1.7% a year, and that's been our historical average growth rate. We're going to have spikes and we're going to have valleys in that period. You know, we've been as high as 4.5% during the boom, been as low as almost 0 2 years ago, but typically we've had this sort of average, you know, sub 2% level.
Very good, thank you.
So based upon the forecast growth and population and employment, we've run transportation models. And the model that's used for this area is called the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Model. It includes not only the transportation system and network for Indian River County, but also for St. Lucie and Martin counties to the south. And what we've done with the model is we have plugged in the future growth in population and employment and not included any roadway improvements beyond the improvements that are programmed to be constructed within the next 5 years. So we're modeling 25 years of growth in population and employment upon just 5 years of roadway improvements. And what's shown on this slide is the deficiencies that will result if there's no further investment made in the transportation system. And what's shown in red are corridors that are forecast to be deficient without further investment. Based upon that, we have identified needs out to the year 2040 to address the transportation deficiencies. And they have been grouped into 2 strategies or categories. One of them is improving existing corridors through adding lanes, through widening. And the second strategy is constructing new parallel corridors or connections to provide alternate travel routes. We've done quite a bit of public involvement over the last several days related to our needs plan. We just finished conducting a total of 6 workshops around the community. We did it geographically dispersed too, with a couple of the meetings in the northern portion of the county, a couple here in the southern portion or in the central part of the county, and got a really good participation and feedback as part of that. We've got a website where we're keeping track of the plan and posting all the information, a survey that's posted there where we're offering a $100 prize to encourage people to fill it out, and have gotten quite a bit of input, valuable input over the last couple days. We will be coming back to the community in the fall when we're working on our cost feasible plan. We're going to transition from this needs plan, which identifies all the needed transportation improvements, into a cost feasible or cost affordable plan. And in order to do that, we're going to need to estimate how much all the transportation improvements are going to cost. And we also will do an estimate of the revenue that's anticipated to be available to build the transportation improvements. And when the plan was last updated in 2035, we found that the costs of the transportation improvements were in excess of $900 million, and the revenue that was available was just in excess of $500 million. And so all the needs were not able to be addressed in the cost feasible plan, and we had to go through an exercise to prioritize what are the most important transportation improvements to include as part of the plan. In terms of our schedule, as I mentioned, we're right about in the middle right now, going through our needs plan and alternatives analysis. We'll do our financial resources analysis of the costs and the revenue over the summer, and come back in the fall with some more workshops to gain the community's input in the development of the cost feasible plan, and the final plan will be adopted by the MPO board by the end of this year. That wraps up our presentation. Be happy to answer any more questions you have.
How do we pay for these beyond transportation impact fees?
There's a variety of sources that come through from both the federal, the state level, including a gas tax. One of the important local funding sources is a local option sales tax. And something that's important to mention about that local option sales tax is that it is set to expire in the year 2019 if it's not extended. And so that is an important source, has been an important source of funding for transportation improvements that there's some uncertainty about heading into the future.
Is that extended at the state level?
No, it's a local option sales tax.
Do you do some type of analysis if we have, whatever it was, 47% growth over this time frame, that 40% growth is going to generate X amount in impact fees, assuming impact fees, I guess, remain constant or perhaps follow a CPI or something?
Yeah, the financial resources analysis is part of that. When we're estimating revenues, we'll work with the finance department to see here at the county to see what the trends have been in impact fees and come up with an estimate for the impact fees as part of that analysis.
Generally, what percent of the total cost would the impact fees be? And it's just ballpark stuff.
Local sources keep creeping up and taking a bigger piece of the financial pie. Local total is about 60%, and impact fees are the biggest single source. Yeah. So they're probably 30% of the whole thing, if I had to guess. It's probably really close, though. And to some extent, when the impact fees don't come in, we use the sales tax to plug the gap. So it's a little bit of a moving, a lot of moving parts here, but critical source is the impact fee. We had gone from at one point, I don't know, it was $200 or $300 million impact fee 5-year capital improvement program. Now it's under $100 million. So these things do fluctuate. They come in very quickly. They go away.
Very good. Okay, any questions or comments from members of the commission? County staff, any questions? To the consultant?
I just wanted to comment that this was really we were trying to be a little opportunistic with this. The consultant has been here the last couple of days along with staff doing the workshops, and we said, hey, we have a light P&Z agenda. Let's give you all some information. As Phil said, get a little more information out to the public. This is not a matter that normally would come before you all, but we wanted to take advantage of that. And we would appreciate your participation with the surveys that Phil passed out to you. That was the only comment I had, Mr. Chair.
Very good. Any member of the public like to be heard? If not, I believe that concludes the matter. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Next item is any commissioner have any matter they'd like to raise tonight? If not, you do have the planning matter, the planning information package. If anybody has any questions or comments on that. And if not, our attorney has sent me a note saying he has a fundraiser to be at, so he just left a few moments ago. I'm sure he did not have anything to bring before us, therefore. And otherwise, with nothing further on the agenda, thank you all for, I'm sorry, Mr. Bowling.
Mr. Chairman, just one more minute. Just to give you all an update on meetings.
Yes.
It appears that we will not need to have a May 28th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, but we are scheduling things for June 11th. So we anticipate having a public hearing and perhaps a few other projects on June 11th. And that was all I wanted to add.
Okay, I'll be there. Okay, very good. Thank you all for coming. Meeting's adjourned.